night. But San Francisco, there's two angles here. -5 at Cleveland, and then their team total. So Cleveland, we know, had a great defense through the first 4 weeks of the season, kind of fell apart again, probably partially the offense's, fault that the defense fell apart a little bit. Also had some injuries there. Myles Garrett got banged up, which again, we got to look at his status and all that. But, to me, first of all, Watson may not play. Now, not that I think Watson's going to be some savior if he does, but obviously when we saw his backup in Dorian Robinson, Thompson, right? DRT?
Yeah.
DRT, thank you.
DRT. Yep.
When DRT was in, they could not move the ball at all. Without Chubb, they haven't been able to run the ball at all. Maybe Kareem Hunt can get going, but guess what? It's not going to be against this 49ers defense. It's not going to be this week. So, you start looking at that and saying, how is Cleveland going to score? My first inkling was to go to their team total and go under, but it's 16.5, which is really low. So, I don't know that that's the route to go, because sometimes you can stumble your way to 17 points in an NFL game, or if the Niners get, if it gets away and, they pull some starters, whatever, they backdoor that. So, but I do think the -5 is very much in play. And then the Niners team total, depending on what book, you can get you can get over 20.5 or over 21.5, depending on which book. Obviously 20.5 is better. But even at 21.5, this offense, I don't care if they're playing a good defense in Cleveland. This offense is too unstoppable, too dynamic to not put 22 points on the board. For me, it's hard to see any game this year that they don't put 22. You saw them light up the Cowboys, who have a similar defense to the Browns in terms of just scheme and all that. So, you kind of look at that and it's like, I think both of those are very much in play here. I understand that it's a road game. I understand San Francisco's coming off that high of whooping up on Dallas. I know Cleveland's coming off a bye. So I think we're just getting value with that. I think, that we're probably getting a couple points of value there. I don't see why or how this is under a touchdown for me. So, having it at that -5 here, give me the Niners all day in this game and give me their team total.
Yanni, I love where your head's at. And I do think getting Myles Garrett back is a big deal.
Sure.
A player that dominant. I know you're not saying it's not. So that's a big deal. But let's go to that game with Dallas. We would agree that Micah Parsons is also a dominant defensive player, right? You could argue who's better, but he's a dominant defensive player. He was invisible last night, man. Yeah. He was nowhere to be found.
And you know what? I thought that I hate to do this because I just blasted mainstream sports media when we started here, but which McCourty brother is the one is that Devin McCourty or Jason McCourty?
Who's on the call, on the broadcast?
On Sunday Night Football. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Whatever. Whichever McCourty brother was on there, he actually said something I thought was exactly on the money. And he said, I do think that the Dallas defensive line and front seven could take advantage of San Francisco's offensive line because I think they're more talented. But he said Kyle Shanahan is not going to let that happen because he's going to scheme around these guys. And that's exactly what we saw happen. That 49ers line outside of Trent Williams is not that great. It's really not when you look at it piece by piece. I don't even know if they're average. They're not that great. But Shanahan figures out a way to neutralize these guys. And I think he'll do the same thing with Myles Garrett and that front seven in Cleveland. And, at that point, what do we need? Brock Purdy to take care of the football. He does that. McCaffrey to find a few yards on the ground. He's going to do that no matter what defense he's playing. And then, by the way, you need somebody like Ayuk or Samuel or Kittle to chip in. At least one of those guys always finds a way to chip in there. So I don't see how this team for the rest of this year, if they have a team total under 22 points, sign me up, man.
Yeah, I'm going to just add to that. And I can't, even though Cleveland's defense, I do think legit is good. I do believe they're a good defense. I can't believe it's that low. Maybe it's dumb to read through a game log, but since Brock Purdy took over, this year, they've scored 30, 30, 30, 35, 42. They haven't been under 30 this year. You go back to last year, and we're not going to do the playoffs. They did have a 19-point game in the playoffs, but we also know there were injuries there and things like that. 38, 37, 37. Then you finally get to a 21 against Seattle on December 15th of last year. This team scores 30 like it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
And they may not do that against Cleveland, but I'm with you. To think that they're going to go under 22 seems like, I mean, yeah, it's a good spot is what I'm saying. The other thing I will say, I mean, because there's not a lot to add to all that you said. Two things I would add. One is just reinforcing we're seeing how much coaching matters in this league. The distance between San Francisco and Dallas is not as big as what it looked last night, though Dak is a problem. But if you switched coaches on those two teams, that game would not look like that.
I agree.
So we're seeing how much coaches matter. And then I don't even remember the other thing I was going to say. San Francisco. Oh, the other thing I was going to say is we'll see where the line goes, but I don't mind if you have something else you really like this as like a money line parlay type piece as well. You know, if the defense is able to keep it closer than we think. But I definitely like San Francisco to win this game. So.